be important that we know how many kilowatts are actually being applied to our collection vessel so that we know how big of a chiller we actually need. What up, guys? It's Chris here again from Extractor Pros. It's that time. Let's do it. Tech Tip Tuesdays. Buying a chiller or even picking out a chiller. There's so many chillers on the market, so many specs they throw at you. What are you really looking for? How come every time you buy a chiller, they're always going out? You know, just all these questions about picking the right chiller for your application. So today we're going to talk about that in a couple parts. Let's talk about how many kilowatts your collection pot, honey pot, your collection vessel is actually seeing. And it's going to be important that we know how many kilowatts are actually being applied to our collection vessel so that we know how big of a chiller we actually need. The lowest temperature on a chiller is not necessarily what we care about. It's more so how much power the chiller has at the temps that we want it to be at. So what I'm going to recommend is we're going to disconnect whatever chiller that you currently have associated with your machine. You're going to want non-jacketed coil. What I mean by non-jacketed coils, I know a lot of machines have a jacketed coil on them. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to take the chilling variable out of the equation by replacing that with dry ice and then just throwing the maximum amount of heating kilowatts that we can throw at our collection vessel to see what's the average amount of kilowatts that our collection vessel is seeing. So once you got the dry ice and a coil, all that set up, what I recommend doing, there's no material in this test. What you want to do is push all your solvent from your solvent tank to your collection vessel. I would recommend at least 30 to 50 pounds of butane. We're going to say butane because that's what we're kind of talking about here as far as energy consumption. Push about 30 to 50 pounds of butane over to your collection vessel. Then crank your heater to as hot as it'll go. Don't start recovery yet. Develop some pressure, I would say a good 50 psi in the collection vessel before you start to initiate recovery. Then initiate recovery. Basically what you want to do is you want to hit a timer and you want to be watching your scale. About 5 to 10 minutes in, that's a good time to test your average recovery rate, because in the beginning of your run, you're always going to be faster, and at the end of your run, you're always going to be slower because you're lacking pressure. Go ahead and record that average pounds per minute that you're getting. If you have a 24 kilowatt water heater and you are abiding by the 4 kilowatt per 1 pound of butane recovery, you know, technically we should be seeing 6 pounds a minute from a 24 kilowatt heater, right? Wrong. The thing we're not accounting for in that little equation there is efficiency. So that is how fast the water's pumping essentially, and how many kilowatts you're losing on the way to the vessel and how many kilowatts you're losing on the way back to the collection vessel. Most of the time we see an average of 4 to 5 kilowatts if you're running your heater at maximum. A 24 kilowatt heater, most likely you're going to top out at 5 pounds per minute, usually about that 20 kilowatt range. That's the average, right? So we want to verify that, and this test that we just described here will help you verify. Say you crank your heater and you're using dry ice, right? And we're only seeing about 2 pounds per minute. That's going to tell me, hey, my collection vessel is only really feeling 8 kilowatts. So if I do have a 24 or sometimes even a 48 kilowatt heater and I'm only experiencing this speed, it's because we're not producing enough vapor, right? You know, if you're running active, you're running the larger gas compressors like a Corkin or a Black Mirror. There's also some other brands of gas compressors on the market now. If you're running one of those gas compressors, you want to be hitting the maximum speed that they are rated for. Like a Corkin T91 is usually rated to about 2 pounds a minute. You could probably push it to 3, but you ain't gonna get any faster than that. It's just gonna top out there. So no matter how hot you heat it beyond that, the pump is not gonna pump any faster than those pistons are moving. That's where the pump becomes a variable. It's a lot easier to audit a passive recovery just because there's a lot less moving parts. Your pump can definitely change a few variables there.